to another edition of Prescott Talks. My name is Jim Dutton. I am the president of Conservatives for a Constitutional Republic here in Yavapai County. And we're privileged here today to have with us Bryan Masche, who's going to be running for governor. And in a few minutes, we're going to try to talk about the main issues that are concerning our state and what's going on and what he might bring to the arena as a candidate for governor. So, Bryan, good to have you with us today.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, for those of you that don't know what Conservatives for a Constitutional Republic is, it's a group of patriots, basically, a private organization, private club. And what we do is we try to educate people on the Constitution, upon the fact that we are actually in a republic, not a democracy, how that works and how that they can be instrumental by supporting good, strong conservative candidates. And we had Bryan in to speak for us recently, and he did such a great job that it resulted in this interview. So, Bryan, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about yourself and what your background is and your qualifications?
Sure. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that warm welcome. My name is Bryan Masche. I'm a lifelong Arizonan. I've lived here 42 out of my 43 years. I'm a United States Air Force veteran. My job, I was in the security forces. My job was literally to keep people on the other side of a wall that didn't belong there. So very applicable to obviously what, our state and our country is facing as far as an invasion crisis. I'm also an operating room nurse. I've been a nurse for 7 years. I've worked all through the pandemic from the very beginning. I'm a nationally certified nurse practitioner as well, family nurse practitioner. I have a history in the pharmaceutical industry and medical device industry before I was a nurse. I spent 5 years as a pharma salesman, a couple of years in medical devices. So for whatever reason, the time that we're in now, I've had a very diverse background where a lot of the previous careers that I've had actually fit some of the problems that we're facing right now. The biggest problem of all that, I think a lot of us see this, in today's world is the big tech corporate media medical complex. Well, I understand that because not only do I work in medicine, but I have that history in pharmaceuticals to where I understand these organizations and I understand, what these vaccines are and what they're doing. So I have a pretty diverse background. Went to school at Arizona State for my first degree. Got my MBA from the University of Phoenix. I also have my BSN in nursing and my master's in nursing as an NP. I ran my own real estate investment company for about 10 years as well. So I have a very broad background that I think really fits a lot of the problems the state is facing right now.
Okay, well, with such a vast experience in the medical industry and everything, what compelled you to decide to run for governor?
Yeah, so it was not a decision that I made lightly by any means. I took a lot of input from family and friends, a lot of time in prayer. And then I had people that started approaching me saying, you should really get in this race. I've been an activist for the last 2 years. I've been down at the Capitol planning protests, planning rallies. I shut down the Arizona Department of Health 2 years ago, the day before Thanksgiving, where we brought 400 people inside of the building. So I have that ability to lead people and bring them together for positive reasons. I actually faced some retribution from my own nursing board back in May of 2020 when the state shut down and they sine-died early. I was at the Capitol and had an interaction with a state senator from Tucson, Victoria Steele, and it was literally less than 2 minutes long. No swearing, no cussing, no finger waving. I might not have been 6 feet. Maybe I was 4 feet. I didn't have a ruler at the time. But Victoria did not like the fact that I was questioning her on the way that she voted and why she would give all of the power over to Governor Ducey to run the state completely on his own. And she actually wrote the nursing board. She filed a formal complaint against me saying that I was threatening and intimidating her at the Capitol which is completely false because there were police officers that you can see in the video. There was no tickets, no arrests, not even a conversation with any law enforcement. But this is the fourth arm of government, like we talked about at your church, that the administrative state, when you come up against them, they will do whatever they can to try and shut you down and try and silence you. Mm-hmm. And so the nursing board actually suspended my nurse practitioner license for over a year and a half. I spent about $30,000 defending, my license. Had the former attorney general's wife, who's also an attorney, was fighting with me. And, these boards are out of control. Government is out of control right now, federally and statewide, and city councils and school boards are out of control. We're basically have become a rudderless ship that's out in the ocean and really doesn't have any way to get back to port. And for me, I looked at the candidates that were in the race and I said, no one's a veteran. No one has any healthcare experience. No one has been a former police officer. No one understands the medical industry. And in my personal opinion, there are some very good people in the race, but I wouldn't consider any of them as strict constitutional conservatives. Mm-hmm. And that's what I am. I'm a member of the John Birch Society. For those that are aware of the John Birch Society and the Blue Book, everything that's happening to us right now, as we both know, was told that it was going to happen to us 50 years ago.
Yes, sir.
And, we were told 50 years ago, the communists aren't coming over in airplanes. They're not parachuting out of the back. They're not landing on the beaches of California. They are coming in and they're starting in our school system. Mm-hmm. And they are indoctrinating our children and they're teaching them cultural Marxism. They're teaching them democratic socialism, which we know is nothing more than code word for communism. And frankly, we are in a war right now. And people need to understand that. We are in a war, and we are in a war against the most sophisticated enemy that we have ever faced. And that is not only the Communist Chinese Party, but it's also members of our own government. Mm-hmm. And we need a warrior right now that's proven themselves by their track record, that is willing to stand in between the federal government and the people of Arizona and the state government and the people of Arizona. Very similar to what Governor DeSantis does in Florida. And to literally tell the federal government, no more. We have dual sovereignty in this country for a reason. And we have documents to follow for a reason. When I'm doing the people's business as the governor, there's only two books that we'll use to run the state of Arizona: the Arizona Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. That's it. Those are the playbooks. That's the rule book. The reason we are in the mess that we're in now is because we've strayed so far away from these documents.
So let me ask you this then. If you were to win the race and become the governor, do you have some priorities that you would do right away, some steps that you would take? You got some plans?
Sure, absolutely. So I've put together a 90-day plan that attacks basically the first 6 major problems that I think are the biggest problems within the state right now. It's a point-by-point plan. It's several pages long. I got input from, members of the House and Senate that I'm friends with. They gave me input on it. I got input from, some of my physicians at work, from family members, and from people in my community. And the number one thing, Jim, that I think we both agree on, that has to be done right away on the very first day, is when I win, when I'm taking my oath, the trucks for the National Guard will be running. And we will not send 6% or 8% like Governor Ducey has done, which was done on purpose to fail, to make it look as if we were doing something. We're going to deploy 100% of the National Guard to the southern border. Beyond just that, we're going to go and we're going to utilize ARS 1624, which lays out the unorganized militia for the state of Arizona. Everyone 18 to 50 years old that can stand up straight and shoot in a straight line. And I'm going to go to those volunteers and I'm going to say, listen, I'm going to say, your state and your country is calling for you right now. I'm a veteran, and I always tell people my oath never expired. There are a lot of other veterans out there that their oaths have never expired either. So we're going to take them, we're going to send them to DPS, we're going to screen them. Anyone that has a criminal background or anyone that can't pass a psych test will not deploy. Otherwise, those volunteers will deploy to the southern border. They will support the National Guard there. ARS 1624 lays out how the unorganized militia falls under control of those Army National Guard commanders. And then when it comes to finishing the wall, we have $90 billion, okay, in the state budget right now. We have never been this rich. And we have this money because this is blood money. This is literally money coming from the federal government that's been used to buy off politicians. It's been used to, corrupt our hospital systems in the state. And we need to take that money, and wherever there is a hole in the wall, we need to use those funds to patch that hole in the wall. And we need to start doing it from Arizona property. So we just make the wall arc up and fan out and come in contact with the wall without impeding into Mexico. Why we haven't done that is beyond me, unless purposefully they're choosing not to do it.
Well, let me just interject here for a minute. When you mentioned bringing in a militia, which is not regulated at this point in time,
Sure.
You're going to probably scare some people.
Sure.
So when you say you're going to bring them in and put them under the control of the DPS, would that be training involved there for them to know how to behave, how to handle themselves,
Sure.
that type of thing?
Sure. So most of these organizations that, even though they're considered unorganized militia, many of these people are part of organizations already that train on a regular basis. Many of them are veterans. Many of them are former law enforcement officers. There's some that aren't. But groups like the Oath Keepers and the Three Percenters and the Minutemen from years ago and the Liberty Guard. And I have friends in all of those organizations. I've been involved in those organizations. So we'll start with people like that we know have training, have experience. They'll go down to the border. They will fall under control of the Army Guard that's down there, and they'll report rank and file structure as if they were, actual guardsmen themselves. And the Guard will have command, control, and training for them. And, the statutes are laid out there. Why it's not being used, I don't know. Because we both, I think, agree that we have a Second Amendment for a reason.
Yes, sir.
And it's not just for you to protect your house or for me to protect my house, but it's for all of us as Arizona citizens to protect our house, which is Arizona and the United States of America. Literally, it says a well-regulated militia for the defense of a free state will not be infringed.
Right.
So the call is going out, and those that fit those circumstances, they can deploy. Beyond just that, we're going to go to the private property owners, and I'm going to, ask them, I'm going to say, you've had people die on your land, trafficked on your land, criminal activity happens here. Let me station, guardsmen and militiamen on your land. And if one of these invaders steps onto your property, we're going to arrest them. And we're going to arrest them for criminal trespassing Arizona private property. We can do that. And we don't actually have to send these people off to the federal government. And we're in a major problem right now where, people are coming back and forth over and over again. They're being, used as coyotes. They're smuggling, human trafficking, narco terrorists, all this stuff. So when we get some of these people and we capture them, if they're a woman or a child, they may be handed over to the feds. But I'm going to tell people right now, if there is anyone there that is a male that has weapons or has drugs on them, we're going to hold them in the prison detention camp set up in southern Arizona. And that's it, plain and simple. We're not going to let them be used over and over again to cause all this harm to our state.
It sounds like you've given this a lot of thought. We got about 2 minutes left.
Sure.
What's your position on the federal or the state of emergency that they have going on?
Sure.
Since being with your medical background and everything, do you think that is justified?
Absolutely not. Like I said, I've been fighting back against this, and I won't ever say pandemic because it's not a pandemic. It doesn't fit the actual criterion. It's a plandemic. And this emergency orders that have been in place, the EO literally from the beginning, it all ends on day one. So on day one, I declare an end to the state of emergency that cuts off all that federal funding that's flowing into the state, that's being used, like I said, to buy off hospitals, to buy off politicians. They're re-sending that money out to the universities. It needs to end. And we need to get control back over the state of Arizona again.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I know we're getting near the end of our time here, but this is just part one. We're going to continue this discussion in another part. And thank you very much for being here. And thank you, Prescott E! News, for putting this on.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.